Imagine walking barefoot through endless desert sands, your hands chained, your lips cracked with thirst, your back beaten raw. Every step forward is not a march of hope, but of despair. The cries of mothers losing their children echo in the night, drowned only by the whips of men who spoke a language foreign to their captives. This was not the transatlantic slave trade. No, this was something else, something older, something many have chosen to forget. For centuries, Africa was not only carved apart by Europeans. Long before that, another trade in flesh had already bled this continent dry. It was brutal, it was relentless, and it is the hidden history that no one wants to talk about. This is Voices of the Forgotten, where Africa's buried truths rise again. This is the story of the Arab slave trade, Africa's forgotten pain. Our story begins not in Europe, but in the sands of Arabia in the 7th century. The rise of Islam had united tribes under one faith, one empire. With conquest came expansion, and with expansion came the hunger for labor, wealth, and domination. From the very dawn of this era, Arab merchants and warriors turned their gaze south, across the Red Sea, into the heart of Africa. The Swahili coast, modern-day Kenya, Tanzania, and Mozambique became their hunting grounds. They came as traders, yes, but also as raiders. They sought ivory, they sought gold, but above all, they sought people. Strong men to build armies, beautiful women for concubines, young boys to serve as eunuchs in faraway palaces. Unlike the transatlantic trade that would come centuries later, no, this was something else, something older, something many have chosen to forget. Zanzibar became the beating heart of this dark industry. Known as the Spice Island, it was not only a paradise of trade, it was also a hell on earth. Here, Africans were dragged into open markets, sold under the burning sun, their bodies inspected like cattle. Some would be shipped across the Indian Ocean to Arabia, Persia, and India. Others would be marched through the deserts to die before they ever reached their masters. The Sahara was merciless. To march across it meant death for many. Captives were forced to walk hundreds of miles under blistering heat. No shoes, little water. Whipped if they slowed, killed if they fell. Historians estimate that for every slave who survived the desert, 2 others perished along the way. Their bones still lie beneath the sands, unmarked, forgotten, erased by time. From Lake Chad to Tripoli, from Darfur to Egypt, from Timbuktu to Tunis, the desert routes carved scars into the very body of Africa. Entire villages were emptied, entire regions depopulated. The trade was not only in bodies, it was in souls. But what awaited those who survived was no better. Unlike the Americas, where slaves were forced into plantations, the Arab world often demanded something far more horrific. Many of the men were castrated, eunuchs. Children as young as 8 were mutilated so they could serve without ever fathering children. Most did not survive the surgery. Those who did lived in pain and humiliation. Women were forced into harems as concubines, sexual slaves for their masters. Others became servants in wealthy households. Their beauty was prized, their freedom discarded. Children, stolen from their mothers, were raised to forget their language, their culture, their very identity.
The Arab slave trade was not just about chains and whips. It was about erasure. Erasure of bloodlines, erasure of memory, erasure of Africa itself. And perhaps the most shocking truth, unlike the Atlantic trade, where generations of African descendants still live in the Americas, in the Arab world, almost no African lineage remains. Why? Because they were never allowed to reproduce. They were used, broken, discarded, and replaced, generation after generation. So why is this story barely told? Why does the world weep for one slave trade while the other is buried in silence? Part of the answer lies in numbers. The Atlantic trade was massive, transporting an estimated 12 million Africans. The Arab trade transported slightly fewer, but it lasted far longer, over 1,200 years. The second reason, survivors. In the Americas, African communities endured, passing down stories to their children. In the Arab world, almost none survived. Castration ended bloodlines. Concubinage erased identities. The story vanished with the people. And yet, even where memory tried to survive, it was crushed by politics, by religion, by rewriting of history. To speak of the Arab slave trade was to challenge powerful empires, and so silence became the safer path. A silence that still echoes in our classrooms, in our movies, in our collective memory today. But make no mistake, the scars are still here. Whole regions of Africa were depopulated, generations lost, progress stolen. Hi, thank you for watching up to this point. If you love African mystery history, comment the country you are watching from so we can appreciate you. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you'll be the first to see our next story. Now, let's continue. East Africa, the Sahel, Sudan. These lands still feel the emptiness carved by centuries of raids. Poverty, conflict, and instability are not accidents. They are the aftershocks of 1,000 years of exploitation. And across the ocean, in the glittering palaces of the Gulf, the descendants of those who benefited still enjoy wealth built on stolen African lives. Even today, reports emerge of African workers abused in Middle Eastern countries, their passports seized, their humanity denied. History has not ended. It is still being written. Africa's forgotten pain is not a story of the past. It is a warning to the present. A story silenced for too long must now be spoken. We must remember the millions who marched barefoot through deserts, who sailed unwillingly across the Indian Ocean, who cried under whips in Zanzibar's markets. Their names are lost, but their suffering must not be. The Arab slave trade was not a side note. It was a holocaust of flesh and spirit that lasted more than a millennium. And now, you know. So the question is, what will you do with this truth? Because if history has taught us anything, it is this: the world forgets too easily. And silence is the greatest chain of all. If this story moved you, if it opened your eyes to a history you never knew, then do not let it die in silence. Share this video. Leave your thoughts in the comments. This is Voices of the Forgotten. Subscribe to this channel so we can continue to uncover the forgotten truths of our past. Because only by remembering can truly